Jamadar sir.
Yes, sir.
Better we'll start.
Yes, sir.
So that the people will join.
Okay, sir.
Please.
In this next session, we have a great personality, Mr. Amit Kakkar, sir. He is presently working as Technical Director of Department of Information Technology and Communication, Jaipur. He has completed the BTech in Electrical Engineering from MNIT Jaipur and MTech in Energy from IIT Delhi. He is GRIHA trainer and evaluator. He is also ECBC master trainer and certified data center professional and accredited tire designer. And he is a certified energy auditor by BE. And also he is a member of ISHRE, ASHRE, FSAI, IAEMP, and presently he is secretary of ASHRE Rajasthan chapter. I request to Amit Kakkar sir to start the session.
Please, sir.
Good morning, all. I think there is some still time left for good afternoon. Good morning to and all the participants, all the faculty members. Is I am quite audible and visible there?
Yes, yeah. Everything is fine.
So let's start the today's AICT sponsored STTP program on energy conservation and audit phase 2. I thanks Dr. Sanjay Khot sir to give me an opportunity to interact with the great faculty members and other participants, and I really love discussions and talking and learning. So really again thanks to Dr. Sanjay Khot for inviting me for giving lecture on pumps and pumping systems. Basically, the thanks to faculty member who has introduced me. I am also additional chief engineer in Public Works Department, and I am presently on deputation to Department of Information Technology. Let's learn together today's subject. Today's content will be, I will be dealing with some basics on pumps and pumping system. Then we will also study about the energy performance assessments of pumps. Dear friends, although I am basically an electrical engineer, but in my area, like in air conditioning and other areas, and in firefighting protections of buildings, we have come across the pumps in our design and other aspects. So I have got a little knowledge on the pumps, and that is all. And I will start today's discussion with a quote by Brian Herbert, that capacity to learn is a gift, and the ability to learn is a skill, and the willingness to learn is a choice. So today, all the participants have a good choice of and their willingness to learn on the topic of pumps and pumping systems. I welcome you once again. And today's our learning objectives will be types of pumps. We will study a single slide on various types of pumps. Then we will study about the significance of head flow curves and operating points of the pumps. Then we will cover factors affecting pump performance, efficient pumping system operations, a very brief on municipal water, sewage and agriculture pumping systems, various flow control strategies, energy conservation opportunities in pumping systems, and also something about the energy performance assessments of pumps. Dear friends, all the literature which I am going to explain you I have taken it from Bureau of Energy Efficiency guidebooks. So if you see anything, you will find all those things what I am teaching or what I am discussing today from those books only. Because it's a very limited period given to me of about 1 hour and so I'll not be able to discuss most of the things about the pumps, but I will focus my talk basically on the energy efficiency of a pumps. Right, to start with, basically there are two main categories in which the pumps are divided. One is a dynamic pumps and another is the positive displacement pumps. And they are further again divided into various categories like centrifugal pumps, special effects pumps, rotary, reciprocating, internal gear, external gear, lobe and slide vanes. And the positive displacements pumps are more efficient, but they require more maintenance. On the other hand, the centrifugal pumps are more economical and they are widely used. So in today's talk, I will be discussing mainly on the centrifugal pumps. And as you know, the centrifugal pumps, this is basically a cross section of the centrifugal pump, and the main parts is the suction through which it sucks the liquid, and the discharge side from where the water or any liquid is discharged. Then there is one impeller eye and impeller and the volute. So in the following slides, I will be discussing only on these centrifugal pumps. So we will learn some basics, and main focus will be on the energy consumption and the efficiency of the pumping systems, right? So basically, friends, there are, whenever we decide to select a pump, we have to take care of two main things. What is our static head and what is our friction head. Static head is basically only simply the difference in the height of supply and destination reservoirs, that is the supply and the destination reservoir. So we have to see only the static head. This is the static head, and one of the important characteristics of a static head is that static head is independent of the flow. Whatever the amount of flow or a liquid is flowing through any pipe or any system, the static head remains same. It is only the difference in the distance between a supply and a destination reservoir. On the other hand, there are some another type of head which is known as dynamic head or a friction head, and it is because of the friction losses on the liquid which is being moved in the pipes, walls, or through any other equipment. So friends, we see that these friction losses are proportional to the square of the flow rate, whereas the static head is independent of the flow, right? So in any system, there is basically there is a system curve. This is known as a system curve, and this system curve is a combination of a static head and a friction head. So this curve is always made like this, and here are the two examples. Here in this figure, we see that in this case the static head is high. This is the static head, and the friction head is low. Whereas in case of another system, we find that here in this case the static head is low and the friction head is more. And the friction head, as I said earlier, it is because of the type of the pipes, what type of the pipes we are taking our design systems, what is their diameters, what are the number and the types of the fittings, what about the pressure drops which are coming because of the various equipments like heat exchangers, or in case of evaporators or condensers in case of air conditioning systems. So I will also explain you about how we make these systems curves when we will learn about the in my successive slide, when I will tell you about the performance measurements of the pumps. So this is a very important thing, a system curve, and this is head versus flow. And this head, basically this head is a combination of a static head and a friction head. Second thing is, when we select a pump, then we always see the characteristic curve of a pump. Now this is the characteristic curve of a pump, which shows a relation between head and the flow. Here we generally measure the head in meters and flow in meter cube per hour, or in any other unit. Basically, this, as I told you earlier, this head is a combination of a static head and friction head. So what happens, whenever we design any systems, then we should have with us the two types of the curves. First we should have a system curve, and then we should have a characteristics curve of a pump. Now, so when we have these two curves, what I have explained you earlier as a system curve and head flow curve, then at the point where these two curves intersect, they give us the operating point of the pump. So this is very important parameter, and we will see how this operating points, we have to find these operating points and what effect it makes if the pump curve or the pump is not chosen correctly according to our system curve. Now again, there are basically, whenever you go for any type of when you go for any type of the pump or select any type of the pump, then you see there are many performance curves comes with that pump, and we have to select the pump accordingly. Now, if you see any of the performance curves, then we find that the main characteristic curve, which I have already explained you, that was the head versus flow, and second is the overall efficiency of the pump, which comprises of both motor efficiency and the pump efficiency, and third is the power consumed by the pump, and the fourth parameter is negative pressure suction head required. This term I will explain you in detail in my successive slide. So you will find these types of 4 types of the curves are very necessary for selecting a particular pump. It can be given like this in detail. This is your head versus flow curve, then efficiency curve. So when we superimpose all these curves, then we generally find that there is a point of maximum efficiency, and we have to operate our system in such a manner that we can have a very small band of flow rates where our pump can perform very efficiently. And third is the power requirement, and fourth is the negative pressure suction head required. Now, whenever we select any, this is the superimposition of all those curves on a single slide. And when we select a pump, or when we choose a particular pump, or when we procure a pump, then we generally find these types of the curves. So let us study what these curves show, because it will help us in selecting a pump. Now, basically, this all curves belongs to a single pump, and suppose this is a particular make and model of a pump, and we find that these are different characteristics curves of a pump, for different values of impeller diameter. What I want to say, this is only a one curve related to one type of pump, and if we put 8-inch dia impeller, then the characteristic curve, that is the head versus flow curve, will be like this. And if the impeller dia is changed to 7.5 inch, then this will act like this. And similarly, for a 6-inch dia impeller, we will have a characteristic curve of a pump for head versus flow like this. And one is the efficiency. We have here plotted efficiency versus flow, but in this case, these efficiency curves are also known as iso efficiency curves, and these are plotted on the head versus flow graphs. And if you see these iso efficiency curves, then we find that for 62% efficiency, the curve moves like this, and for 60% the curve is like this, and for 55% this is like this. So we have to find, and again, because the pump is operated by motors, to find out the particular for a particular application for a flow versus head, we have to see what will be the impeller diameter and what will be the motor requirement. So from these curves, we can see that if you are operating in this particular range, then you have to choose a 7.5 horsepower motor. For operating in this particular area, you have to choose a 10 horsepower motor on this. So from this, characteristics curves, if we have got our design requirements for a particular flow or head, and so we can choose a best pump which can perform at very good efficiencies, and from this curve we can also calculate or also determine what will be the horsepower requirement of the motor driving the pump. So this is again a similar type of the pump, and here we see that the best efficiency point, and it indicates that the best efficiency point is that point at which you are getting the maximum efficiency for a particular pump characteristics, defining you a particular impeller diameter and a particular flow and a particular head. So for at this from this curve, we see that for a 500 meter cube per hour flow, for a head of 51 meter, the efficiency level, maximum efficiency point is 78%, and the impeller diameter requirement is 421 mm. Right? Next, what we see, if we talk of the overall efficiency of a pumping system, which comprises of a motor and a this pump. So what we see that there are three main important parameters. One is known as hydraulic power, another is known as the shaft power, and third one is the motor input. So what we see that hydraulic power output which a pump is giving is equal to the is given by this formula, which is equal to flow multiplied by head multiplied by the density of the liquid which is required to be pumped, and acceleration to gravity divided by 1000 to convert this hydraulic power into kilowatt rating. So if we know our hydraulic power, if we know our flow and head, then we can calculate the hydraulic power requirement, and from that power requirement, if we have got the value of the efficiency of the pump, then we can easily calculate what will be our shaft power. From the value of the shaft power and the motor efficiency, if we know, we can easily calculate what will be our motor input power requirements. So these are the three formulas which are generally used in calculation of determining the performance of the pump and other things. So you should one should know all these formulas, and for a faculty members, these type of formulas are very easy formulas. And here we see how this efficiency of the pump varies. First it increases with the flow, then it becomes constant and then start decreasing. So the overall efficiency of a pump will be equal to the hydraulic power output versus electrical input power given here, right? So there are various factors which affect the pump performance. First thing is that we should select there should not be any mismatch between pump head flow and the system head flow characteristics. This type of the problems comes because if we don't select our pump properly, then we find that our entire system is working at a low efficiency levels. And sometimes what happened because most of the people does not know how to select a pump, so they generally select a oversized pump. As a consequence of which is that they consume more power, and our energy goes waste. I will explain you this through one example or one numerical. And then we also find that in order to regulate the flow, sometimes some throttling is done. So a lot of energy is wasted in that throttling. So what happens, dear friends, that whenever we are selecting any efficient pumping system, we have to see that we should select the most efficient pump. That is, the pump efficiency should be high. Then we should implement the various speed drive methodologies to regulate the speed of these pumps. We should always select the right size of the pump. We should maintain our pumping system very effectively. And if in case of any fixed flow strategies, we should trim the impeller if we find that we have not chosen our pump impeller of the correct size. Either we should change the size of the impeller, or we should trim it if it is not available in that particular size. We should always adopt higher efficiency and proper pump seals. Then we should see that there should be a minimum pressure drops in our system. That means there should be less bands and other things which results in increase of over frictional losses and other things. And if we have got a variable flow requirements, then we can also use the multiple pumps. The multiple pumps can be used of different ratings also, and they can be used of the similar rating also. This I will also explain in my successive slides through some graph things. And we should implement proper control valve technologies for proper operation of our system to make it more efficient. Now here through this example, I will show you what happens if it does not select our pump properly. So friends, if you see this graph, you will find that this is our static head graph, and this is our system curve. This green curve is a system curve, and this is my pump characteristics which I have chosen as a pump A. This curve is what I have chosen. So what I found that for any flow requirement chosen, suppose initially I thought I will be having a flow requirement of 500 meter cube, and on the basis of my system curve, I choose this particular pump, and this was my operating point, and I found that when I operate my pump at at this particular position, because I have already told you that operating point is that point where the system curves and the characteristic curve of a pump coincide. So this is my operating point, point A, and I found that my pump is operating at an efficiency of 82%. But later on, I find that I don't require a flow of about 500 meter cube per hour, and I want my flow to reduce to 300 meter cubic hour. So what I do, I just throttle it, and when I throttle it, then my system curves changes like this at point B, and then because this is the characteristics of the pump which I have chosen, so my new operating point becomes B for 300 meter cubic per hour. And at this point, I find that my pump efficiency is only 77%, because I have earlier told you that the pump efficiency curves are like this. So at point B, I am getting the pump efficiency as 77%. So just by not selecting the proper pump initially, I am losing regularly a 5% loss in my efficiency, and that is resulting in high energy consumption. So these two, this example shows you whenever you are selecting a particular pump, please choose the pump according to your requirement, so that the efficiency level is always high. Now here I am giving it, if you don't choose your pump properly, then what happens? And what are the, let us discuss, or let us study in terms of the expenditure which we'll be doing yearly. Here what happens that my requirement, these are, I will show you this curve. Now this curves, this is the characteristic curve of pump A, B, C, D, and E. I had a particular requirement of say 68 cubic meter per hour. This is my flow requirement for a head of say 47 meters. So I select my pump according to this E. E was my pump which I have chosen, and when I put all those my values for 68 cubic meter flow and 47 meter head, then my hydraulic power values, when I put in that formula, it becomes my hydraulic power requirement is 8.7 kilowatt. And you see at this particular point, the efficiency is about 60%. So the pump efficiency is 60%, and that means my shaft power requirement is about 14.5 kilowatt. And I have got a motor which has got an efficiency of 90%. So when I determine my energy requirement or power requirement, I find that my power requirement is something around 16.1 kilowatt. So what I want to stress, that for a 68 cubic meter flow requirement for a head of 47 meters, I have selected a pump having a characteristic of E, which gives me a 60% efficiency. But suppose if any other person have chosen this pump wrongly, and he has chosen a pump having a characteristics of like this A, then at 68 cubic meter flow requirement, which I have, I find that the efficiency for a pump operating at 68 cubic meter flow is 50%. So when I put these values in my second system, that is my flow is 68 meters cubic meters per hour, I choose this the values to per second by dividing it by 3600, and now my head has gone for this particular pump as 76 meters. When I then I found that my hydraulic power has increased to 14 kilowatt. Earlier it was 8.7 kilowatt, but because of the wrong selection of pump, it has now become 14 kilowatt. And the efficiency is 50% of that pump operating at that point. So my shaft power requirement is 28 kilowatt. And when we put my calculate my energy requirement by putting the efficiency at 90%, what I have chosen earlier in the first case, then I find that my motor requirement is 31 kilowatt. So friends, what we see here, that if I don't choose a pump properly, then for a requirement of 68 cubic meter, I have chosen a pump which is consuming more electrical power, here 31 kilowatt as compared to my requirement of 16.1 kilowatt. So the difference is about 14.9 kilowatt, and when I convert it in terms of suppose energy usage in a year for 8,000 hours per 8,000 hours usage in a year, and so I find that my total kilowatt hour requirement is about 1,19,200 kilowatt. And if I convert it in terms of rupees at the rate of 5.50 per kilowatt, then I find that it is about 6,55,600. So what it means that I am wasting this 14.9 kilowatt in terms of hourly usage per year and itna. So I am, by wrong selection of a pump, I am spending 6,55,600 rupees per annum. So from this example, you might have understood what is the correct procedure of choosing a pump, and we should always choose a pump as per our system operating point for a system curve, and the right type of the characteristics curve of a pump, which gives us the true picture, and on that we should have a maximum efficiency. Right? Secondly, what happens, there are other things also, like here in this example I have shown you, these are the different pumps. Here I will explain you one of the important thing to control the flow, and to control the flow we can reduce the speed of the pump. Here is one example what it suggests. Like here is a curve, and when I operate it at a speed of 1480 rpm, then this blue curve gives me the head versus flow characteristics of pump. And if I operate it at a speed of 1315 rpm, then this is the shape of my performance curve. And at 1184 rpm, this green dotted line is my performance curve. Similarly, the power consumption curves are shown accordingly in this lower graphic. So what I am going to tell you about that, there are certain there is a one affinity law, and that affinity law says that if you reduce your speed, then the flow is directly proportional to speed, and the head is proportional to square of your speed, and the power consumption requirement is proportional to cube root of your speed. So what happens, dear friends, here if I reduce, suppose I'm giving you an example here. Suppose my initial speed of a pump is about 3,000 rpm, and my flow requirement was 100, and my head is 100 meters, and power consumption was about 40 kilowatt. If I reduce my speed from N1, that is from 3,000 to 1,500 rpm, and by putting values on these formulas, I will see that when I reduce my speed from 3,000 to 1,500 rpm, my flow reduces from 100 to 50, which is basically proportionate flow, and my head reduces to the square of the speed, that is because I have reduced my speed to half, therefore my head has reduced to 4 times, and my power consumption will reduce to 1/8 time. So 40 divided by 8 will become 5 kilowatt. So this is one of the method through which I can control my flow by reduction of my speed. Here I want to emphasize one more point, that these are the ISO efficiency curve. You just note these things because a comparison will be required in my next slide. Another method by which I can change the speed of my pump, that is to regulate the flow, is by changing the impeller dia. So here you see this curve is for 400 mm impeller dia. When I reduce it to 373 millimeter, then my performance curves comes down, and this is my new value. And when I reduce further the speed, then it comes further the impeller dia to 326 mm, then my performance curves becomes like this, and these are the resultant power curves. Now, one important point which I will be explaining you in my succeeding slide is that please see these two curves carefully. Here in this case, the ISO efficiency lines are like this when I change my speed, but when I change my impeller, then my ISO efficiency curves are coming like this. We will see the effect of this in my coming slides. So what I wanted to show here, or wanted to emphasize here, is that here this graph shows the different different characteristics of different pumps. But here the characteristics is of the same pump, but with different values of speed and with the different values of the impeller diameter, right? Now, there is another one important factor which comes when we select a pump, that is which is known as a net positive suction head. And this net positive suction head is again divided into two parts, which one is known as the net positive suction head available and net positive suction head required. So what is this net positive suction head? Friends, what happens that when the liquid enters in the impeller eye, then it gets split into various separate streams, and they converts into various because of the difference in the pressure at the inlet, the pressure get reduces so that the liquid or the water gets boiled up. Because of the reduction in the pressure of at the impeller eye, the boiling point of that the liquid or the water gets reduced. So it becomes it gets converted into liquid to bubble form. And as a consequence of it, there are three undesirable effects. First, that bubbles coincides with the inner surface of volute or vein surface, and they collide with it and they erode the vein surface. Secondly, it produces lot of noise and vibrations. And third, they are also responsible for choking the impeller passage and reduce the pump performance. So whenever one selects the pump, we have to see the net positive suction head line of the pump, which is required characteristics of a pump. That is, the NPSHR is the characteristic of a pump, and the NPSHA is the what is available in our system, and it is the characteristics of our system. So always the net positive suction head requirement available at the system should always be less than the net positive suction head requirement of the pump. Otherwise, what will happen? The water, because of the reduction in the pressure of a liquid at the eye, that will convert it into bubbles, and the cavitation problems comes. So this is the basically, with every type of the pumps, we get this net positive suction head line. And here, one of the important point which I want to emphasize is that at the lower flow rates, this net positive suction head requirement does not reduces to zero. And there is a, at particular flow requirements, for example, here shown from 75 to say 125, the line is almost a straight line, and which is known as a plateau line. And when the flow rate increases, this NPSH requirement of a pump increases. And it is seen that as the speed increases, this NPSH requirement also increases. So this makes the, imposes a limit on our control of pumps through speed variations, right? Now, so there are, to control the flow, there are various strategies of controlling the flow in case of pumps. We can change the speed, what I have shown you earlier. We can operate the pumps in parallelly to meet our demand. Third thing, we can stop and start control pumps as we do in our home applications. Whenever the water is required on our overhead reservoir, we start it, and when it is not required, we stop it. And third is we can control the flow through our flow control valves. We can also use the bypass control, and there can be strategies for fixed flow reduction. There can be strategies for meeting variable flow reduction. So we will see all these strategies in my succeeding slides. Please see this whenever. Now the first method of controlling the flow is by varying the speed. I have already explained you this. I have already explained in the slide earlier, where I have shown you that if we reduce the pump, if we reduce the speed of the pump, then our pump characteristics curves comes down. Now, I will be explaining you the speed. There is slide, please.
Praveen, please unmute. Please mute. Praveen Nabgo. Praveen, there is disturbance from your home. Mute. Praveen.
Yes. So, yeah, we do the control, the flow rate control through speed variations. So, as I explained you earlier in my this graph, if we reduce the speed, then this pump of characteristics come down. Like here, it is for 1418 RPM, and it is for 1350 RPM, and here it is for 1184 RPM. Now, what happens? I will explain you, we will discuss two cases. First case is that in which there is no static head, and second case will be there when there is a static head. So these are my pump performance curves, and this is my system. This is my system curve in case when there is no static head. And in second case, I have got this much static head, and this is my dynamic head. So we will be seeing two cases. What happens when we operate the pump by speed variation? So again, I am emphasizing these curves are the pump characteristics curves at different speed. This is my system curve where there is no static head, and these are my corresponding power requirement versus flow curves. Okay. So what now see the case in which there is no static head and I have got only the dynamic head. What happens in this case if I reduce my speed from 1480 RPM to 1350 RPM, my operating point comes from this point to this point. And when I reduce speed to further to 1184 RPM, my operating point becomes like this is my new operating point. So the advantage of reduction of speed with no static head system curve is that I continue to operate on the same efficiency level. Like here, I am continuing operating at 86% efficiency level. And when I reduce my speed from 1480 RPM, here my power requirement was say something about 80 kilowatt, and when I have reduced, come down to this level for 1184 requirement, then I see that my power requirement is something about 40. So at the same efficiency level, my power requirement reduces drastically in case when there is no static head. Now let us take the case when there is a both static and dynamic head. This is the case. Now initially I was operating at this particular point 86%, and when I reduce my speed from 1480 RPM to 1350 RPM, this becomes my new operating point. And if you see here, the efficiency will come down to about 75%. And when I further reduce my speed to 1184 RPM, then this system curve does not coincide with this characteristics curve of a pump. So what will happen? There will be no flow through my pump. This is the disadvantage here. And also one of the important point, when I was operating at this particular point at 86% efficiency, my power requirement was about say 120 kilowatt, and when I came on this point, then I find that my power requirement is again around 80 kilowatt. So what happens, what I am trying to emphasize, in case when there was only a dynamic curve, we used to operate at the same efficiency level. Here the efficiency level changes and the percentage reduction in power requirement in case of static plus dynamic head is less. Secondly, if I reduce my speed to a further value, then at certain position what it can happen, I have reduced speed but I am not getting any output. The pump does not generate sufficient head to pump any liquid into the system. That is the pump efficiency, and flow rate is 0. Here we see that flow rate has become, by reduction of speed, the flow rate has become 0, and energy is still being input to the liquid. In that case, the pump becomes a water heater and damage the and damaging temperature can quickly be reached. So this is not advisable. Therefore, the point which I want to emphasize is that whenever you are selecting a pump and want to reduce the flow by speed, please see how your system curves and the characteristics curves of pumps are behaving, whether it is possible to reduce the speed or not. In this case, it is not possible to reduce the speed below 1184 rpm because we will not get any flow and it will act as a heat source. While in this case, we see that it is possible to reduce the speed, and we will continue to operate at a similar efficiency level. Right. Second is that this is the important curve. What I want to emphasize here is that suppose my flow requirement at any particular time, say in the morning hours, it is very less, say 60 meter cube per hour, and in after some time it becomes 120 meter cubic per hour, and after some time it becomes 180 cubic meter per hour. So what I do, that instead of going for a single pump of 180 cubic meter per hour capacity, I can go for 3 types of the different pumps, so that whatever will be my requirement, I will operate my pumps accordingly. So this is known as the operation of the pumps parallel. Now in this case, I can have a pumps of similar ratings also and in a different ratings also. So here, if suppose only single pump is operating, then this is my characteristics curve. If the pump are of similar rating and both will work, then my characteristic curve will become like this. And when I switch on my third pump, then my overall characteristic curve of the overall system will be like this. Now, this is the thing. The point which I want to emphasize here is shown through this slide. Now, what happens here? As I explained you, this was the characteristic curve of single pump, 2 pump, and 3 pumps. And this is my system curve. Okay. So here, what we see here, the important point, please note here, that when I switch on my single pump, then my flow is 60 meter cube per hour. And when I switch on another pump of similar rating, then my flow requirement does not become doubled. It does not become, here it was 60. When I switch on my another pump, then it is not 120, but it is less than 120. And when I switch on my third pump, then it does not become 180 meter cubic per hour, but it is only 130 or 140. So this is because our operating points are that points where our system curves and the performance curves matches. And here this system curve comprises of both static head and dynamic head. But suppose if my system curve is only for a static head like this, red curve, in that case my capacity by switching off a particular becomes doubled. Like here it was say about 20 meter cube per hour, and when the second is switched on, it becomes 40, and when the third one is switched on, it becomes say 60 or so. Where in case of a different system curve, the flow does not increase in a proportional manner. So you have to see how your pumps behaves in respect to your system curves. And these are the important thing which I wanted to emphasize here, that the flow generally matters or depends on your system curve, right? Secondly, here we'll study in the last 2 slides what we have studied. In the first case, we have studied the flow control strategy by changing the speed for a case 1 when there was a static head, in case 2 when there was when there was no static head, and here we studied the parallel operation of pumps with the static and with the static and dynamic head, and here in case of the static head. Now the third strategy of controlling the flow is by throttling, which we have already seen earlier. You know, my performance, the system curve was like this, and my performance curve was like this, and my flow requirement was. But when I throttle it to have a reduced flow, then my system curves changes from this dotted position to this point, but simultaneously there is a pressure drop, head drop, and this head drop is responsible for the inefficiency of the pump or the entire system. And in third case, you can control the flow by impeller trimming. So what is this impeller trimming? I'll explain you. Suppose this is, and here we will also, yeah. So before impeller trimming, this was my performance curve, and this was my system curve. Okay. So what happened that my flow requirement, I have chosen a pump initially for this particular point, but later on I find no, my flow requirement is less, and my flow requirement is on this dotted line. So what I did, in order to come at this this operating point, I throttled it and I reached at this point, so to match my flow requirement. But the disadvantage of this was that this was the power loss which resulted because of the throttling. So the second strategy for this was that instead of throttling, what should I do? I should replace the impeller dia. So earlier my for a particular impeller dia, my characteristic curve was like this, but when I reduce the impeller dia, then it becomes the new characteristics curves become like this. By changing the impeller dia, what I see, there was no change in my system curve, and I was operating at the same system curve for my desired flow requirement. So initially my flow was this thing which was wrongly chosen. My desired was this. So one procedure would have been that I should have throttled it, but in that case I have not throttled it. I have just changed the impeller dia and I continued working on this level, and so there was no power loss in throttling. So this explains you that if you have got a fixed flow reduction requirement, then instead of by throttling or by any other procedure, you just change the dia of your impeller. Now this impeller dia or changing the impellers of a new diameter, or by trimming the impellers, they follow the same affinity laws, that the flow is proportional to the diameter, and the head is proportional to the square of the diameter of the impeller, and the power requirement is proportional to the cube of the impeller dia. Now here I will explain you another technique. In this, here we change the speed through our VFDs, that is the variable frequency drives. Now in case of a pump, whenever we use the variable frequency drives, then they have got certain advantages. One advantage is that they start very softly. Whereas in case of if we use a dual starters or a star delta starters or auto transformer starters, then they at the time of the starting they draw the high value of the current, and it affects our system. Secondly, through VFDs, the pumps can start at a low starting current. Now another very important feature when we use the VFD can be well explained through this graph. Please understand this graph carefully. There are two types of the graphs here. One is in the solid line, and another is given in a dotted line. So let us see the application, how the VFDs help in energy reduction. So this slide will help you. As I said, this solid curves are for normal operating speed, and these dotted curves are for reduced speed. So when this is the pump characteristics curve at particular speed, and this is the pump characteristics curve for a reduced speed, and this is correspondingly power curves for first speed and second speed, and these are the efficiency curves. So in this particular graph, you see that there are three curves: performance curves, efficiency curve, and power requirement curve for two different speeds, right? When I reduce the speed, see carefully, when I reduce the speed, all these curves come down, like performance curves come down, and this power requirement curve also come down. They come down and they move left also. So if you see initially this curve, when I reduce the speed, this curve will come down as well as go left. Similarly, this curve will go down and will go left, and this curve, the efficiency curve, will go left. Okay. So now I am again repeating my thing. We are going to study the effect of speed variation. What happens when we reduce the speed through VFD? This graph shows the performance curves, efficiency curve, and power requirement for two different speeds. First shown by the hard line, and second shown by the dotted line. So dear friends, when I reduce my speed from say this level to this level, I find that my new curve is this and my power requirement reduces. But most important point is that my efficiency level remains same. This is the efficiency versus flow. This is the power requirement versus flow, and this is head versus flow. So here what I see, when I reduce my speed, I continue to operate in a particular efficiency. This we have also seen earlier in this graph. When I reduce my speed, my efficiency remains same. Hope you have understood this thing. Okay. Now, another important point is that these pumps. So, friends, I have at this point I have explained you what is the system curve, how the system curve is made from static head curve and dynamic head curve. What are the different types of pump characteristics curves, and how should we choose our operating point, and what are the different techniques for controlling the flow requirements. And our main aim should be such that we should reduce the flow, keeping the efficiency constant. Now, these pumps are, used in different applications. In air conditioning, they are used as a condenser pumps, and they are also used as chill water line pumps, and most of the pumps are also used in the water pumping systems. In that case, we use these pumps, use centrifugal pumps and vertical turbine pumps, and generally they are, specified there as a million liters per day, means MLD of the water handle, and these vertical turbine pumps, which is also known as deep well turbine pump, is simply a vertical axis centrifugal or a mixed flow type pump, which comprises of many stages. Like these are the stages which accommodate rotating impellers and stationary balls possesses guide vanes. So you must have seen all these municipal water pumping systems there, and we also use the pumps for our sewage water applications. But the difference is in the impeller. Here the radical flow impellers are used, which are used to handle porous, solid, and fibrous materials. And if you see, these pumps use voluted impellers to balance, because the design of the sewage pump is largely determined by the size of the foreign matter that must pass through the pump without clogging. So these are designed such that any foreign material which are coming in the sewage can pass through, can pass freely. And the major applications of the pumps is in the agriculture pumping system also. And there, for the best energy efficiency requirement, we should always go for low friction footwalls, and we should install the low friction HDPE pipes, suction and delivery pipes. The advantage of using the HDPE pipe is that whenever we use these pipes, the friction coefficient of these pipes are less, and they can be placed with a maximum covering the maximum. They avoid the sharp turning radius. We can make a long bends in this type of the pump, so that our friction head reduces, and we should always go for pumps having the high energy efficiency motors, because in that case, if you see the different types of motors which are coming for driving any pump are classified as IE1 category, IE2, IE3 and IE4 categories, and IE4 categories are the maximum efficiency motors, which gives us a efficiency level of more than 97 or 98%, whereas the IE1 rating generally are available in the efficiency range of say 75 to 80%. So whenever you select a particular motor, always go for driving your pump, always go for high efficient motors, probably IE3 or IE4 rating motors. And one important point which is which is a known figure, is that out of the total consumption of the electrical power utilized in any industrial or residential applications, whatever the electricity is generated, about 60% of the power is consumed by motors, and out of that, about 70 to 80% of the motor applications are required for driving the pumps, so that we can understand what is the total amount of energy efficiency levels are available with us to properly select pump and motors related to it. So it is a very important point one should keep in mind, that we should always select the motors to drive our pumps which have got a very high efficiencies. Now, the second important point after discussing the various terms, terminologies and the selection of the pumps, it is generally required as an energy auditor to check the performance and assessment of the pumps which have been already installed at various factories or residential buildings or at any other applications. So we will see how to assess the performance of a pump which has already been installed, so that we can know whether we have installed a right type of the pump or whether our system is correctly designed for that, and where are the gaps. Like in one of the example I have shown that that particular gentleman has selected a wrong pump, as a result of which the energy loss per year was coming about 6.5 kilowatt, 6.5 lakhs per year. And please see to it, one of the important aspect of any pump is that any pump consumes an electrical power which is about 100 or 150 times of its procurement cost. So the running cost of a pump is very high as compared to its procurement cost, because it consumes a lot of energy. Therefore, the proper performance assessment of pumps is very necessary in the field. And there are basically, two things which we have to keep in mind when we are assessing the performance of the pump. First, we have to calculate the efficiency of the pump, and secondly, we also have to make our system curves, which I have already explained you. But in this slide, I will explain you how we make our system curves. So what is Q? Let's first check or calculate how to calculate the pump efficiency. We know what is our flow that is being represented by a word Q, having a unit in meter cube per second. And we have also seen that our flow is proportional to our speed, and we have also seen what is our head. And we have seen that there are three types of head, that is a velocity head, static head, or a friction head. And this is the pump efficiency formula, that is the hydraulic power requirement versus the electrical input. And for calculating the hydraulic power requirement, the formula was flow multiplied by head multiplied by density multiplied by acceleration due to gravity. So for calculating the efficiency of any pump, we want to calculate our flow, we want to calculate our head, and we want to calculate our input power requirement. So these are the three important parameters which will be required for calculating the efficiency in the field. So we'll see how we calculate the flow in field, how we calculate the head in the field, and how we calculate the input power requirement. Now, input power calculation is very easy because in any system which is supplying electrical power to any pump, there the voltmeters and ammeters and energy meters or whatever meters are connected, so that through that we can easily read what is the amount of electrical power our pump is consuming. Now, for measurement of flow, there are basically 4 methods. One is known as a tracer method, one is known as ultrasonic flow measurements, tank filling method, and online flow meters. Now, actually, the calculations of flow through these ultrasonic flow meters and online flow meters is very easy. But we should, as an academician, we should also know what is the tracer method and what is the tank filling method. So this tracer method is generally used in cooling water flow measurement. What happens in this tracer measurement method? We add some, tracer, generally in the form of a sodium chloride, to our system. So suppose this is basically, mass balance. So here we see that the QCW is the cooling water mass flow rate, and Q1 is the mass flow rate of our injected tracer, and C1 is the concentration of injected tracer initially, and C2 is the concentration of a tracer at downstream position during the plateau period of constant concentration. So what we see that initially we know what is the concentration of an injected tracer and what is the mass flow rate of the convection of injected tracer, and after some point when it is at the downstream position, when the plateau period is received, that is when the tracer is mixed well with our water, we take the sample there again and we calculate the concentration there, and by using this formula we can easily calculate the water mass flow rate at at any place. While in case of a second measurement through ultrasonic meters, these are the ultrasonic meters. Now, ultrasonic meters can be provided in between the pipes, or they can be mounted outside the pipes also. Like here, I can calculate the flow without any cutting of the pipes. Like here in this case, I have installed this ultrasonic flow meter permanently in the pipe, but in this case it is not required. They can be mounted on outside of the pipe also, so that they are very handy. You can take all these ultrasonic flow meters at any particular location and you can measure the flow. Here what happens, how this flow meter works, that there are basically transmitters and receivers. Like this is the cross section what you see inside it. These are the transmitters and these are the receivers. So they send some waves, transmit some waves, and in case when there is no flow, then they reach at a particular time. This is a transmitter, this is a receiver. In this case, this is a transmitter, this is a receiver. So some signals pass through this and some signals pass through this. When there is no flow, they will reach at particular time. But when there is a flow, then the time required for a signal to reach as a receiver will vary. On the basis of the diameter of the pipe, the time taken, and the density of the liquid, we can calculate what is the flow requirement. Similarly, in this case, when these flow meters are installed outside the pipe, then there are two items. This is the transmitter and this is the receiver. This transmits the ultrasonic waves here. It gets reflected and being received at this particular receiver. So the liquid continue to flow in the pipe, and these are mounted outside the pipe, and depending upon the time when these signal reaches after reflection, these are calibrated to give us the flow rates. And third method is a tank filling method. Tank filling method is very easy. You can just calculate whatever the flow is there by measuring the levels. You can have a length into width into height of your tank, and at particular level you initially started that it was about 100 meters, say 10 centimeter, and for a particular after time it has filled up to say 15 centimeter. Then the height is 3, height taken is 15 minus 10 is 5, and depending upon the length and the width of the pipe and the time taken, you can easily calculate the flow but there are some things that you should be always ensured that whenever you are taking the measurement, you should take it on a sufficiently long length of the pipe, which is free from any disturbances due to bends, trees, and other things. And the pipe section where the measurement is to be taken should be hammered gently to enable scales and rust to fall out. These are particularly cases where you are using those flow meters in this case. So the tank filling method, as I told you, you can easily calculate by the total quantity of the water filled in a particular time period. And again, there are also the online flow meters are available, which looks like this only, and but they work on a certain on principles of Faraday law, and these are all calibrated to give you the flow rates. So for calculation of efficiency, we have to know the flow rate. So these are the different methods of calculating the flow rates. And for calculation of suction head and discharge head, you can easily calculate it by suction. You can calculate it, and then by putting in the formula for hydraulic power requirement, you can calculate what is your hydraulic power requirement. Then on the basis of your on the basis of your pump efficiency, you can calculate the shaft power, and from shaft power and the motor efficiency, you can always calculate the motor power requirement, and from the value of the input power requirement and hydraulic power requirement, you can calculate the overall pump efficiency of the entire system. So this is the methods which are generally used in the field for calculating the efficiency. Second thing, or the second step which is required, is to calculate the system resistance, or to make our system curve. So here is an example of that which I am going to explain you. And the case is that this basically this slide show you a refrigerant plant which is located at 00 level, and the process plant like this condenser is located at plus 15 meter level, and there is another cooler which is located at 00 level, and one reactor which is located at 5 meter head. So what we see that this HS represent the static head and HE represent the equipment pressure drop here. So in this case, what we see that our total static head is 15 meters, because this is 00 level and this is 15 meter level. So the height from the lowest level to the highest level is about 15 meters. So the step one is to calculate the static head, and here through this example we have seen that my static head is 15 meters. Now another thing is to calculate my maximum resistance. So what we see here that we have used three different units. One is condenser, one is reactor and cooler. So this is condenser, reactor and cooler. I have divided into three parts. Here what we see that supply line distance from pump to a condenser. If we are calculating it for condenser, we see that the supply length requirement from pump to condenser is 15 meter. Similar is the return line. When the return line will be there, so return line is also 15 meter. And static head is 15 meter. Please make a difference between supply line and static head. Here in this case, both are 15, and return line is 15, and this equipment head drop is 5 in terms of head, measuring in terms of meter. And so the total head of this thing is that is the total dynamic head, inclusive of static and total head comprising of dynamic and static head for condenser for this particular figure is about 50. Similarly, if we calculate for a reactor, here the supply line length is 10 meter. Supply line from pump is 10 meter, 5 meter here and 5 meter here, so it becomes 10. Its static head is 5 meter. Its equipment drop is HE is equal to 5, and the return line coming from this particular location back to that is again 10 meter. So here the total head requirement for this reactor is about 30, and similarly if we calculate for cooler, then it comes about 54. So in this system, what we see that the maximum of the total head we will calculate for all these things, and it is coming around 54. So here earlier we have calculated our static head as 15, and when we calculate total head, it is coming 54. That means my dynamic head is 54 minus 15, which is coming around 39 meters. So in next step, what we do, because what we have seen earlier, if you remember my first slide, there I have shown you that static head is independent of flow. So here, if my flow reduces from 100 to 75 to 50 to 25, my static head will remain same. But in case of my dynamic head varies with the percentage of the square of the flow. If you remember my first slides, let me go back. Here I have shown you my static head remains constant, while my friction head is proportional to the square flow rate. So remembering these two curves, here what I see that when my dynamic head earlier was I have calculated it 39 by subtracting the total head and by subtracting static head from total head, and it was 39. So when the flow was 100%, my dynamic head was 39, but when flow reduces to 75, putting in this formula, my dynamic head reduces to 21.9. And when the flow reduces to 50%, my dynamic head becomes 9.75, and for flow of 25, my dynamic head becomes 2.4. When I put all these things in my formula or my graph, here I see that my static head is about 15, which is constant, 15 constant. But with the variation of the flow, when the flow is 100, when the flow is 100, you see my total head is 54. So here my total head is 54, but at 80 the flow, the head. So in this manner, I make my system curve. The characteristics curve of a pump showing the head versus flow, showing the efficiency versus flow, showing the power consumption versus flow, showing the NPSH requirement versus flow are available with the pumps. So I go, I superimpose my pump characteristic curve with this system curve and gets my operating point. So these are the two methods through which I calculate the performance. I do my performance test in the field to know the pump efficiency, which I explained you, and to make my system curves. And from these two things, I just calculate how my performance of the entire system is there. So, dear friends, hope you have understood all these things. Here, I have tried to explain you the basic things of a pump, the basic, terms or terminologies used with the pump, the proper how to select a pump, how to select the motor rating of a pump from graph. And I have also shown you or explained the how to arrive at the operating point of operating point of our system, where the system curves and the performance curves coincides, and how should we regulate the flow. And in our studies, we have seen that we can regulate the flow. Either the best procedures is to reduce the speed, or by changing the impeller dia, or by adopting the flow control strategies, that is the throttling, or by using the VFDs. So the best thing till date is the use of the VFDs for precision, for starting and speed control of the pumps. And for energy conservation opportunities in pumping system, the various things one should keep a note of that is that we should always select the adequate net positive suction head at site of the installation. We should check our NPSH requirement and NPSH availability. We should always operate pumps near best efficiency point. We should modify our pumping systems and pumping losses to minimize throttling. We should not do throttling. Instead of throttling, we should adopt the procedures either by reduction of impeller dia or by speed control. We should adopt the wide load variations by use of VFDs, but whenever you are using VFD, please ensure what is your system curve. It is good when the system curves are properly, only dynamic load is there, because if there is a static load also, then if we reduce the speed, then we will not be able to get the flow and it will become a hot generator. This I have already explained you. We should regularly repair our seals and packaging to minimize water loss by dripping. We should use booster pumps for small load requirements and higher pressures. In multiple pump operations, we should combine the operations, or we should select the pumps of for parallel operations. Those may be for similar ratings or maybe of the different ratings. And if we have got a different pressurization system, suppose that in our industrial application we have got a one high pressure system and another for low pressure system, then please do separate designing for all these two things so that we have got a maximum energy efficiency. We should also reduce the system resistance by pressure drop assessment and pipe size optimization, because if the dia of the pipe is less and the flow requirement is more, then we have to increase the pressure for that, and that will result in friction losses and other things. Suppose if you have selected an oversized pumps, then you should use the variable speed drives, and variable speed drives are again of two types. These are electrical type or mechanical types also. And in electrical type, we use the VFDs, or you can downsize or replace impeller. Downsize or replace impeller, or you can trim the impeller. Or if you see, we have selected a wrong pump, as I told you, because the operating cost of a pump is much more as compared to its initial procurement price. Therefore, if you see that you have installed a wrong pump and it needs to be changed, please change it. And so always replace the old pumps by energy efficient pumps. Energy efficient pumps means efficient pumps also and efficient motor also. So these are the generally things which I wanted to convey to you. Hope I have conveyed in a proper manner. So this is my last slide. What Albert Einstein said: once you stop learning, you start dying. So please always keep learning, study codes, and share your knowledge. And that's all from me. If there is any question, I am happy here to answer all.
Is there any question from the participants? Please, you can ask directly by unmute yourself.
Sir, it was very, very nice, very wonderful, very informative session. And you have taken the testing, which you did was very nicely. Different ways of the testing, that measurements. Now there are 2-3 sub questions. Whenever actually we did energy audit of one of the village actually, there during that audit we observed that consumption, we measured the consumption of pump, and here we calculated. But there that Gram Panchayat person is insisting to go for the vertical turbine pump, and in the and even we have tried for some of the energy efficient pump which is being manufactured by the Kirloskar, that is available for the particular head as well as discharge with some submersible, and cost of that vertical turbine is around 5 times more than that submersible. Still, why to go, or how will compare that? That would be better. How will compare that these pumps, vertical turbine as well as submersible, for the same case?
For the same flow rate?
Yeah, same flow rate, both are, because that pump, that rating, it is around 35 kilowatt. That pump is of the 35 kilowatt.
Okay.
And there, what we did actually, we asked them to go for energy efficient with the same that wattage for the same discharge, so that some conservation would be there. And similarly, we gave that requirement to that Kirloskar company, because they are supplying in all the municipal corporations. There is some rate contract, the government of India, sorry, government of Maharashtra. So even, but that person from the Gram Panchayat, he was insisting to go for the turbine pump. I don't understand that, because both pump will serve the purpose. Just you elaborate what is basic difference.
But
Please.
but have you studied have you tried to calculate the efficiency of the two systems? Were they equal or were they different? Like here I have shown you. Here I have shown you whenever we choose a pump, we always have to see our system curve as well as the characteristics curve of a pump. And from that point, you can calculate, you can show him from which pump you are getting the maximum efficiency. And if the way I have explained you by showing an example, if it can be shown, if he can be convinced about the energy reduction method, so that is, I think, one of the strategy. But हो सकता है कि in certain cases when both these factors are same for centrifugal pump or for a vertical turbine pumps, one important point is that if both the efficiency and all these things you are getting the same, then I think that person was insisting you because we find that I have also seen this whenever I have come across any field my visits, that they will insist you for a particular pump instead of another one. The reason behind it that because in that area the maintenance people for repairing of those types of pumps are easily available. So they think we have got a easily availability of the man who will repair in case of any defect, or we have got a certain similar pumps available with us so that we can replace them. So this might be one of the reasons why he was insisting. But if you can explain it through these points by showing the calculations, suppose if you are using a pump which is giving you a 65% efficiency and another pump which is giving you a 62% efficiency, now 3% efficiency makes a lot, it makes a big difference. And I always stress keep the procurement price of a pump may be less, but its running cost is tremendous.
Yeah, very true. Yes, that's true, sir. No, but any just give me any advantages of turbine pump as far as the water lifting is concerned. Is there any advantages turbine pump vertical?
Basically, the advantages you can say is that कि उनकी जो maintenance वगैरह है या उसका जो दूसरा requirement है, it is quite easy. Centrifugal pumps में थोड़ा सा difficult. Okay, for the same vehicle, I don't find
submersible. If you compare with submersible and vertical turbine,
I will not be able to explain your answer.
Okay.
Because as I said earlier, I use pumps for. I am a man who uses pumps for my air conditioning applications. So I use centrifugal pumps
correct,
in a large. And I use these pumps for my firefighting applications because I am a building engineer. My experience with the PhD water supply and other areas is less, so I'll not be able to answer in those areas.
But sir, session was very effective. It is very much helpful to all the technicians or the academicians rather, and this will help for the audits also. Any other questions from participants? Some chat is there. Can you read the chats? You can see the chat, Amit sir.
Yes, sir. Sir, just I will read. Elaborate on shut-off head and how much margin is allowed for the motor on BKW of pump.
What is the actually I will not be able to answer both of these questions. Yeah, the one thing is that he has asked the elaborate on shut-off head and how much margin is allowed for motor on BKW. Yeah, BKW. Can you इसको आप थोड़ा सा वो कर सकते हैं कि what do you mean by BKW? Break.
Sir, it is good afternoon, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, your presentation was very impressive, sir. Lot of fundamentals were able to learn from your presentation.
Thank you for that.
Sir, am I
But I
audible?
just
Sir, it is BKW means that
hello.
Hello, you are not audible, sir. Krishna sir. Hello, you are not audible,
Uh,
Krishna sir.
is this related to BKW of pump? I am not getting that word.
sir, very sorry. There was a network issue. BKW is the duty point of the pump, sir.
Duty point. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Duty point of the pump is termed as BKW.
so
Uh,
now what you ask, please elaborate on cutoff or please ask your question in another form. I will be able to answer because I know much duty point.
Sir, it is
Saying,
something like that. Generally, the pump is selected as per your presentation or as per the standards is how much discharge at what head.
yeah.
Discharge required at what head the discharge is required.
Yeah.
More head, less discharge, or less head, more discharge. Generally.
Yes. So you want to say, ki suppose our operating point, what I say, my operating point and duty points are same. Huh? Duty
This one, sir. This one.
this. Huh?
Yes, sir. Yeah. So
Okay.
the issue comes.
Hmm. Issue comes ki how much my this operating point should shift, either left or right or along the curve. Krishna?
Yes, sir. As per this curve, the system curve. Sir.
Yeah.
Am I audible, sir?
Yeah, you are audible. You are audible. Now please ask your
Sir,
question.
sir. I am from Hyderabad, sir. So, as
Okay.
per this system curve, for a given discharge for the given head, we
Yeah.
could select the pump rating as per QGH divided by some formula.
Yeah.
But in order to determine the starting current of the motor, I am from electrical background, sir.
Yeah. You want to
In
say
order to,
how should I select the motor rating?
yes, sir, motor rating.
Oh,
How much margin is allowed?
yeah. I will explain you through this curve. See, this is the curve, and this is my. Suppose this is my any performance curve. Are you able to see this?
Yes, sir, visible.
So what you do, you select the, you take out this type of curve from the pump which you are procuring, and here you will find for this type of for a particular value of flow and for a particular head, you will be able to determine your operating point or the characteristic curve. From here, you see that now for this particular curve, you need to have a 20 horsepower motor. But if suppose your operating point is coming on this curve, then your horsepower requirement will change from 20 horsepower to 25 horsepower. So through this curves of that particular pump, and depending upon your flow requirement and head, you will first find out your operating point or duty point, and the curve, that curve should lie below this dotted curve. Suppose if this is the curve on which you have selected your operating point or duty point, then you have to go for a motor which whose curve is lying above it. You cannot choose a motor below it. Otherwise, you will not be able to pump the liquid to your desired flow rate and for a desired head. Is it okay?
Sir. Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
And the second question is that what master system developed and affected by Birlaji, I am not aware of all this thing, so I will not be able to answer your question. I can reply it in a later stage.
Is there any question from the participants? You can ask directly by unmute yourself, or you can put into the chat.
Okay, sir.
Thank you, sir, for your wonderful session. It was a very nice, sir, and you have elaborated very clearly about to the pumping system and the points covered, such as the performance of the pumps and its characteristics, effect on the pumping system, energy loss, and some calculations with the case studies. It was a very nice, sir. Thank you for giving us such wonderful knowledge. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I conclude that. I conclude that the session is over. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you once again to Sanjay ji, to all participants.
Thank you. Thanks, sir. Thank you, sir.
I will explain you, but you know, I've got a limited knowledge. If I was not able to reply, I will reply those questions at later stage. Thank you. Let's keep learning. That's all from my. Okay. Thank you.
Yes,
sir.
sir. Thank you.
I'm
All the
signing off.
participants,
Okay?
please note this. Next session will start at 2:15 p.m. 2:15 p.m. Okay. Thank you once again, all, one and all. Thank you.